They said he was done forever.
He is done.
The end of this Trump era.
There'll be new faces and new voices.
The final chapter of Donald Trump.
I don't know what the future of this party can be.
The movement we started is only just beginning.
The entire system went after him.
Mar-a-Lago was raided by FBI in
New York indictment.
A sweeping indictment in
Donald
Georgia.
Trump says he's been indicted again.
I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear.
But he never stopped fighting for you.
I will never stop fighting for you, your family, and our magnificent country.
And we will win, win, win. We're going to win, win, win.
Thank you, President Trump, for fighting for us. The greatest political comeback in American history.
Donald Trump has been elected president.
Now, it's time we fight for you.
The golden age of America, that's what we have.
The best is yet to come.
Something historic just happened in American politics, and the legacy media is either too embarrassed to explain it clearly, or they simply don't want you to understand it. For 42 days, Senate Democrats held the American traveling public hostage. They let airport lines stretch 4 or 5 hours long. They let TSA agents sell their blood plasma just to pay their rent. They blocked bill after bill after bill, all to score points for the radical left wing of their party. And then suddenly, in the span of a single Truth Social post, President Donald J. Trump completely and totally obliterated every ounce of the Democrats' political leverage. Not through negotiation, not through compromise, not through the Senate, that's for sure. He simply went around them. He rendered them irrelevant, completely, totally. And within hours, astonishingly, every single Democrat in the Senate caved unanimously and got nothing in return. What you're about to see isn't just a story about airport lines or TSA funding. It's a story about a fundamental shift in how power works in America. We're living through a transformation from a nation governed by legislative gridlock and Senate filibusters to something the founders actually envisioned: a strong, decisive executive branch, unafraid to exercise the full power of Article 2 of the Constitution. The Democrats thought they had leverage. They thought they understood the rules of the game. As it turns out, they were playing checkers. Trump was playing chess. And this was the very definition of checkmate. Greetings, everyone. It is Livestream Friday. I am your host, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, enjoying yet another glorious day in Trump's golden age that you made possible back in November 2024. So if you want a front row seat on how you continue to change the world in ways you never even imagined, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. As always, we've got a jam-packed show for you today. Our super chats are up, so feel free to send in your comments, your questions. It'd be my privilege to read them and answer them during this live stream. Also, you know, all this chaos, both at home and abroad, reminded me of the volatility that our savings are subject to, right? I mean, imagine this: 30 years of work, 30 years of saving, 30 years of sacrifice. Then what? 2 months before retirement, boom, the markets tank. Just like that. Everything you built, gone right before the finish line. I've told you guys this before. This actually happened to my maternal grandmother. The market tanked and she saw half her savings wiped out. It was horrible. And here's the truth nobody wants to think about. Anything, literally anything can happen overnight. Anything can change. Now, you've been led to believe you've been safe sitting in your paper assets. But look around you. Look at what's happened just right now. War with Iran, oil price volatility, global markets are reacting, and your retirement is sitting there fully exposed, tied to every bit of it. The wealthy aren't sitting in paper. The educated aren't Central banks aren't. So why are you? More and more Americans are waking up to something most people never find out about. You can move your IRA or 401k into physical gold outside the market. No taxes, no penalties, done. That's exactly why I teamed up with Augusta Precious Metals. They showed me how it all works, and they've helped thousands of Americans understand how to protect part of their retirement with real physical gold. So here's what you need to do right now. Go to turleybuysgold.com or text Turley to 35052 and get Augusta's free gold guide. They'll show you exactly how it works, clear, straightforward, every question answered. That's turleybuysgold.com or text Turley to 35052. 30 years of work should not ride on one market cycle. Protect what you built. Get the guide today. All right, let's dive right in here. Let's set the stage because this is absolutely astonishing here. DHS funding expired back on February 13th. Republicans sent bill after bill to the Senate floor to reopen the Department of Homeland Security, including TSA, the Coast Guard, FEMA, Secret Service. Every time Democrats voted it down. Now you would think, why on earth would they possibly do that? Well, because buried inside any DHS funding bill was money for ICE, right? Immigration and Customs Enforcement. And Democrats had decided that ICE was their new battleground. This was the new hill that they were prepared to die on. As far as Democrat constituents go, they expected their senators to avenge the death of Renee Good and Alex Preddy, the two ultra-woke anti-ICE activists who got shot and killed by federal immigration agents in Minneapolis when they were interfering with their law enforcement duties. The most rabid far-left Democrat activists demanded that their senators shut down the government, at least partially, in response. And so Senate Democrats, who are basically being held hostage by the radical left, willingly so, by the way, dug in their heels and refused to vote to fund any DHS bill that did not come with new restrictions on ICE, things like requiring agents to get judicial warrants before entering private homes and banning immigration officers from wearing masks during raids, even though they know their own constituents are doxing those agents, those officers, based on facial recognition. Now, this is absolutely crucial to understand in order to see the political trap that the Democrats inadvertently walked straight into. We have to remember that ICE already got funded. That was part of the genius of the one big beautiful bill, which Trump signed into law back on 4th of July. That bill automatically, that's key, it automatically gave ICE $75 billion in new budget authority, approximately 7x ICE's typical annual budget of $10 billion. And it's available through fiscal year 2029. That money was appropriated through the reconciliation process, meaning it sits completely outside the normal annual appropriation cycle and can't be touched by a government shutdown. So whether the DHS is shut down or not, ICE and CBP, Customs and Border Patrol, will still be able to pursue their immigration crackdown completely undisrupted. That's key. This is why the Democrats couldn't defund ICE. The one big beautiful bill had already locked in the money till 2029. A DHS shutdown, a continuing resolution, or even passing a bill excluding ICE funding made zero difference to ICE's operational capacity until 2029. And so this is why Democrats pivoted from defund ICE to demanding reform conditions, such as hamstringing them with unnecessary warrant requirements, mask bans, body cameras, all kinds of hampering accountability measures. Since they couldn't starve ICE of their money, their only play was to attach behavioral guardrails to the annual appropriations bill as a legislative price for Democrat votes. And again, this is all part of what's factoring to the Senate's political paralysis. Because of the filibuster rule changes, this is going back now to the 1970s, budget reconciliation bills, which bypass the normal 60 vote threshold, they do come with some constraints. Every provision must be directly related to federal revenue, spending, or the debt ceiling, the so-called Byrd rule, okay? ICE and CBP actually fit that test clearly because Congress was expanding their enforcement capacity as a core policy goal, adding billions to hire more agents, build more detention facilities, and fund deportations as a spending increase with a clear fiscal footprint. The Office of Management Budget, the OMB, could easily score the effects such efforts would have on the annual budget, the effects that mass deportations would have on welfare rolls, Social Security benefits, unemployment payments, and the like. By contrast, TSA and the DHS are workforce operations agencies. So their budget is primarily annual salary and staffing costs that get set each year through normal appropriations. And so they have to get renewed every several months. Those are the rules baked into the appropriation bills, okay? Now, no Republican believed for a second that Democrats would be so politically stupid as to block the regular annual appropriations process of the TSA or the DHS. Au contraire, the Republicans were wrong. They were dead wrong. The Democrats literally know no depths when it comes to their absurdities. It turns out the Democrats are that politically stupid, and they did just that. They held the annual renewal of TSA and DHS funds hostage in order to force the Republicans to agree to rein in ICE agents and their deportation efforts. Now, to their credit, Republicans refused. Okay, this wasn't Paul. I mean, I'm not a fan of John Thune, no question, but he's no Paul Ryan in this sense. They were not going to hamstring the president's deportation agenda as a condition for keeping airport security funded. They were never going to capitulate to the Democrats holding TSA funding hostage. And so week after week, the Senate deadlocked. 3 separate funding bills failed to clear the 60 vote threshold needed to advance, with nearly every Democrat voting no. 42 days passed. And what happened? The TSA lines at airports across the country exploded. I mean, the scenes were literally beyond shocking. And it was all the result of 50,000 TSA officers working without pay. Nearly 500 had quit, on top of the 1,100 who resigned during the earlier 2025 shutdown. Absences spiked past 10% nationally. And at some airports, New York, Houston, Atlanta, New Orleans, over 30% of TSA workers just simply didn't show up. Why would they? They're not getting paid. And the result? The longest airport wait times in TSA history, bar none. Some lines exceeded 4.5 hours. Houston's Hobby Airport told passengers to arrive 5 hours before their flights. 5 freaking hours. New Orleans was recommending 3 hours early. Lines were snaking outside terminal buildings. TSA's acting administrator told Congress that agents were, quote, sleeping in their cars at airports to save gas money, selling their blood and plasma, and taking on second and third jobs to make ends meet, all while expected to perform at the highest levels when in uniform to protect the traveling public. And she warned lawmakers that if things got worse, the TSA might have to shut down smaller airports entirely across the country. And keep in mind, this is all happening during spring break, with travel volume running 5% higher than previous years. The scenes were beyond disastrous, and they were an optics nightmare for the Democrats. And we were already beginning to see the political damage. The latest Quinnipiac poll, just released days earlier found that Democrats had fallen to an abysmal 24% approval. 3 in 4 Americans didn't want anything to do with this party. I mean, you can't get much lower than that. The optics for Democrats were becoming catastrophic. Again, now, for their part, the Republicans have been trying for 6 weeks to find a deal. They offered to fund all of DHS except ICE's enforcement and removal operations, essentially meeting Democrats halfway. Democrats rejected it. Then they offered to fund ICE's emergency deportation functions only. Democrats rejected that too. Anything and everything that the Democrats offered all came with the strings attached to unduly hamper ICE agents from carrying out President Trump's mass deportation efforts. And so, as the kids just kept fighting and fighting and fighting, Daddy came home. That is when Trump stepped in. And he absolutely changed the game. So last night, the president took to Truth Social and he wrote, quote, "The radical left Democrats and their leader, crying Chuck Schumer, have made it very clear where they stand. And that is on the side of criminal, illegal aliens and not the American people. They are refusing to fund immigration enforcement unless the Republicans agree to their open border policies, which will never, ever happen. They almost destroyed our country, allowing 25 million people to enter from prisons, mental institutions, and insane asylums, those that are drug dealers and thousands of murderers, many of whom killed more than one person. Because the Democrats have recklessly created a true national crisis. I am using my authorities under the law to protect our great country, as I always will do. Therefore, I am going to sign an order instructing the Secretary of Homeland Security, Mark Wayne Mullen, to immediately pay our TSA agents in order to address this emergency situation and to quickly stop the Democrat chaos at the airports. It is not an easy thing to do, but I am going to do it. I want to thank our hardworking TSA agents and also ICE for the incredible help they've given us at the airports. I will not allow the radical left Democrats to hold our country hostage any longer." And of course, his signature, "Thank you for your attention to this matter." It was an absolutely brilliant move. I mean, Trump called out both the ridiculous antics of the Democrat Party and the pathetic paralysis that plagues the Senate in one fell swoop. He announced that he would sign an executive order directing Department of Homeland Security Secretary Mullen to begin paying TSA agents immediately using funding mechanisms from the One Big Beautiful Bill. The message was unmistakable. Hey, Senate, we don't need you. Hey, Democrats, we don't need you. We don't need you. We don't need this Jurassic institution of the Senate. We are bypassing your blockade entirely, rendering you irrelevant. TSA agents will get paid. The airports will get relief. And Democrats will get none of the credit. And most importantly, they will not get so much as a shred of their ICE reform demands. Within literally minutes of that announcement, travelers heralded the move. Check it out.
Expecting it from what I saw on the news. I've been in line for about 45 minutes with no end in sight. It's a small problem compared to the TSA folks who aren't getting paid. And this is about politics. Unfortunately, the Democrats are using leverage to try to control the conduct of ICE instead of worrying about paying these poor TSA agents who have mortgages and house pay and all sorts of car payments and, you know, the expenses we all have in life. And this is terrible what they're doing to the American traveler, but it's even worse what they're doing to the TSA worker.
Yeah. A lot of TSA workers struggling financially right now. And with that being said, President Trump said that he will sign an emergency order to immediately pay TSA agents. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's great. These are people who are really keeping us safe. It's wonderful. They do a great job and they deserve to be paid.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
And suddenly, just like that, poof, the leverage Democrats thought they had evaporated, gone. All the momentum now had swung to the White House. Trump was going to get it done. Trump was on the side of the TSA. Trump was on the side of travelers in airport security. Trump was once again proving in one fell swoop why nearly 80 million people put him in office. And literally within hours of Trump's announcement, something astonishing happened. And this is where Trump's 4D chess brilliance shines all the brighter. But first, if you are just joining us, our super chats are up, so feel free to send in your comments and questions. I'll be happy to answer them on our live stream here. Also, did you know that U.S. life expectancy peaked at 78 years back in 2014? And global life expectancy is declining for the first time in 30 years because people are aging faster than ever before. And it's largely due to more toxins in the air and chemicals in our soil and food and other external factors that are new to us. Now, what most people don't know is that we can actually fight aging on a cellular level. Scientists have discovered that kimchi actually slows the aging process of human cells, helping to protect them and delay aging. The power of nature can outweigh the power of pharmaceuticals without the nasty side effects. And now you can get all the benefits of kimchi in a simple capsule with Kimchi One. Now, I take Kimchi One every single day. I absolutely love it. Each capsule delivers over 900 probiotic strains, plus antioxidants and enzymes that support your digestion, metabolism, and skin health from the inside out. As we age, we become more susceptible to microbial threats and harmful viruses and bacteria. But the beauty is that Kimchi One is a natural antimicrobial, helping your body fight off harmful bacteria, viruses, even toxins, while boosting immunity and energy. And best of all, Kimchi One is 100% made in America. It's all natural. It's non-GMO. So do what I do. Support your gut, protect your cells, and feel younger every single day with Kimchi One from Brightcore. Today, you can get an exclusive offer by clicking the link below. Just use code Turley for 25% off your entire order, or, for an even better deal, call my friends at Brightcore for up to 50% off your order plus free shipping. Give them a call at 888-597-0233. That's 888-597-0233.
Thank you, Trump. Thank you, Trump. Thank you. Thank you, Trump. Thank you, Trump. Thank you, Trump. Thank you, Trump. Thank you, Trump.
What a sight. That's hundreds of Iranians, or better, Persian Americans, who've been rallying outside the CPAC convention this weekend in Grapevine, Texas, showing their support for President Trump and Operation Epic Fury. I mean, between the massive surge in support among Venezuelan, Cuban, and Iranian Americans, I think we now know why MAGA is currently bigger than it's ever been. Have you seen the latest polling? The latest YouGov polling shows that more than 63% of Republicans see themselves as MAGA. That's up from 57% in 2024. All the polls are showing that MAGA is growing, not shrinking. And we could see it right there at CPAC. I mean, who would have ever imagined scenes of Iranian Americans rallying together by the hundreds chanting, "Thank you, Trump. Thank you, Trump." I mean, it's absolutely astonishing. We ain't seen nothing yet. Speaking of astonishing, within just hours of Trump's announcement that he was going to sign an emergency order to fund all TSA agents immediately, every single Senate Democrat caved. Every single one. The Senate passed a TSA and DHS funding bill by unanimous consent, meaning not a single senator, Democrat or Republican, objected. It was an astonishing shutdown implosion. The Democrats bent the knee to fully restore funding to the TSA, and they did not get so much as a shred of their demands for hampering ICE officers. They got nothing. This is what a total and complete unconditional surrender looks like in the Senate. It was absolutely astonishing. I mean, the headlines say it all, right? Hot air. Dems throw in towel on Schumer shutdown too. We've been there, but we've been here before, right? Or here's a town hall. Dems hope for mayhem with ICE agents at the airports has blown up in their faces. Guy Benson tweeted out, quote, 41 days of shutdown during which 4 jihadist attacks took place. Thousands of travelers were badly inconvenienced and many federal workers didn't get paid, all to achieve absolutely nothing. Oh, but they fought. He went on, quote, yes, although Democrats didn't actually achieve anything, they caused a 40-plus day shutdown and ended up getting zero policy changes to the agency they're demonizing, which has been funded the entire time. And the Republicans say they'll fund that agency further through reconciliation anyway. Well, I guess the win was causing the harm and pain without really getting punished for it and showing unity in resistance. Well, the one win the Democrats are desperately trying to spin out of this is that they effectively shut down funding for ICE. ICE isn't getting a penny for from these funding appropriation bills. But of course, if you know anything about this, that's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. And that's because ICE's funding has been front-loaded up until the year 2029. ICE is swimming in more money right now as we speak than the department has ever had, and it'll do so for the next 3 years. So there's no win in this for the Democrats at all. There's no way to spin this. They completely and totally and unconditionally caved. And it's all because of that genius political move by Trump. And they recognized it right away. To their political credit, they knew that the optics were catastrophically self-defeating for the Democrats on virtually every level. They knew that if they tried to stop Trump from following through with his executive order, if the Democrats went to federal court to try to prevent unpaid TSA agents from receiving their paychecks, it would have been a public relations disaster. There'd be no spin that could survive those optics. Moreover, it would have confirmed Trump's entire framing, right? Trump's Truth Social post explicitly branded Democrats as siding with criminal illegal aliens over the American people. So a lawsuit to block TSA pay would have been Exhibit A for that framing. It would have been Exhibit A that framing was absolutely correct, that Democrats were willing to keep airport workers in financial misery, all in order to protect illegal migrants. It would have handed Republicans a dream campaign ad running nonstop all the way through the 2026 midterms. Oh, and on top of all that, it would have fractured the Democrat coalition, unions, including AFGE, which represents federal workers. They'd been loudly demanding TSA agents get paid. Suing to block their paychecks would have been a direct stab at organized labor, which is traditionally one of the Democrat Party's core constituencies. Not really anymore. They've more or less sided with the Trumpian MAGA Republican Party. This unanimous Senate capitulation within literally hours of Trump's announcement suggests Democrat leadership understood exactly this calculus. Once Trump announced the executive order, their leverage didn't just evaporate, it actually inverted. Every hour they held out after that post made them look worse. That's 4D chess in its most brilliant and virtuosic form. But at an even bigger level, what Trump just did there is part of this extraordinary restoration of constitutional powers. For decades, really since the New Deal era of the 1930s, the executive branch of the United States government has been slowly hollowed out. The power that Article 2 of the Constitution explicitly vests in the president was being quietly transferred piece by piece to an unelected bureaucratic apparatus, a vast administrative state of agencies, departments, and regulatory bodies that answer to no one, are voted for by no one, and can be removed by almost no one. It was often termed as the fourth branch of government, a shadow form of government that had no constitutional authority. Article 2 of the Constitution is breathtaking in its clarity. It says that the executive power, all of it, shall be vested in a president of the United States for whom every single voting person in the nation votes for. He's the only political figure that everyone votes for. And all executive power is therefore bestowed upon him, not the EPA, not the Department of Education, not in a network of career bureaucrats in permanent federal employment that are accountable to no one. The president, one person, directly accountable to the very American electorate that put him in the office in the first place. But somewhere along the way, Congress got comfortable delegating its own authority to these unelected agencies. And those agencies got comfortable delegating presidential authority right back to themselves. And the result was a Gordian knot of regulatory capture, institutional inertia, and deliberate paralysis, a system that made it almost impossible for any president to actually govern. Trump's first term began chipping away at that structure. His second term is demolishing it. Through a relentless campaign of executive orders, the dismantling of rogue agencies, the gutting of weaponized bureaucracies, and the reassertion of direct presidential command over the entire executive branch, Trump is doing something genuinely revolutionary. He's restoring the Constitution's original architecture of power. And nowhere was that restoration more dramatically on display than this week, when Senate Democrats manufactured 42 days of airport chaos, betting that Trump was boxed in by legislative gridlock. And instead, he reached past the Senate entirely. He invoked his Article 2 emergency authority, and he ordered TSA agents paid immediately, before Congress could act, before Democrats could spin, and before another American missed their flight. One post, one order, and the hostage crisis was over. Now, here's the big takeaway. Ready? If he did that with TSA funding, what do you think he's going to do with the SAVE Act? If he did that with TSA funding, what do you think he's going to do with voter ID? Gang, this is a presidency like no other. The first true presidency that we've seen in our lifetimes. He's doing things that we never even imagined were possible. And we still got nearly 3 more years left of it. This is what winning looks like. And I'm not even remotely tired of it. Over to you, gang. Over to you. I want to hear what you have to say. Remember, our super chats are up, so feel free to send in your comments and questions. It would be my honor to answer them right here on this live stream. Also, we are indeed witnessing a historic turning point as President Trump leads a righteous crusade to finally liberate the world from the terrorist state of Iran. A much more sinister war is being waged right here on our own soil, while our commander-in-chief moves with decisive strength to demolish the Iranian war machine, obliterating their military hubs like Karg Island to protect global freedom. He's being systematically undermined by the enemies within. These anti-Trump shadow state radicals are desperate. They see the president winning, so they're manufacturing a domestic crisis to try and break the spirit of the American patriot. They want the dollar in flames and your life savings frozen in their crossfire, their manufactured economic blackout. Their goal is to force you into a state of financial submission where the shadow treasury controls every penny you own. The question is, will you wait until the bank holidays, as they're called, start, or will you launch your family finance defense right now, today? You must act now to move your savings into a territory these radicals cannot touch, and that is cryptocurrency. And you can build your financial fortress right now using Block Trust IRA. I'm a proud client of Block Trust, and I've seen their amazing Animus AI platform work firsthand. Their 24/7 Animus AI has consistently outperformed Bitcoin by, get this, over 250% since 2020 by navigating the exact volatility these saboteurs are trying to create. Now, while the world panics, Block Trust IRA's $200 million institutional-grade insurance shield defends your wealth, ensuring your life's work remains out of reach from the shadow state. Now, to help you launch your defense, Block Trust IRA is authorizing a $2,500 family finance defense bonus to be added to your new crypto IRA the moment you sign up. You can use it right away. Head on over to turleytalkscrypto.com right now and schedule a confidential discussion with their crypto AI experts. Share this link with every patriot you know. It's time for a collective family finance defense act right now to defend your family and your future. That's turleytalkscrypto.com to safeguard your family's prosperity today. All right, Josh, what do we got? ROT Core. Oh, great and learned Patriot professor, full of conspiracy theories today. Oh, no. All right, Trump buys billions in crypto. AugSep used to pay off national debt. Crypto prices surge. Debt becomes trillions surplus. October surprise, GOP promises to vote 100% tax returns and stimulus check for 2026, 2027, or UBI if they win. Democrats respond how? GOP wins. Trump coronated. Dems destroyed. Bernie, harikari. Anti-Trump's forced to wear scarlet TDS on their clothes forever. USA Utopia. Crazy? All right, ROT, you got to get out more. You're spending way too much time alone. No, that's pretty brilliant stuff. I don't know. That's I mean, that's not 4D chess 5. That's 26D chess, man. That's bigger than me. The gist of what you're saying is this: the economy is going to explode, particularly energy prices are going to just fall. We already control more oil than Saudi Arabia and Russia combined, and then we're going to have tacit control over the Persian Gulf with the new Abraham Accords, a security architecture there. All the GCC nations have already announced that they are going to police the Strait of Hormuz, which is exactly what we wanted. We want Arab money and Israeli muscle to secure that region under a brokered U.S. agreement and effectively permanently box out China from having tacit control through their proxies of Iran over the most important energy choke point on the planet, Strait of Hormuz. All of that is happening as we speak. And if it continues to play out the way it looks like it's going to play out, we're going to see an economy and really a global prosperity, the likes of which we never even imagined. And if that happens, I see it's going to be, especially with redistricting, with the VRA decision that's coming in, I see it very, very, very difficult for the Democrats, even if they were to win more by 1 or 2 seats, or a handful of seats in the House. I think the Senate is gone. I don't think they have any chance. And so President Trump, and again, President Trump has demonstrated we are an Article 2 nation right now. For right or for wrong, that is where we are. The powers, the extraordinary powers vested with the executive branch are what are driving the agenda in our country right now more than they have literally in the last century. Spartacus, Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, the Democrat plantation is proving once again they're a domestic terrorist organization by holding up DHS funding, causing the backup at U.S. airports directly affecting taxpayers. Personally, I'd like to know how hard it would be to get a constitutional amendment that would freeze congressional pay and benefits if there's a government shutdown. Your thought? Yeah, well, I mean, you're not going to get a constitutional amendment. It's not going to be able to pass the 2/3 threshold to that. But it would be President Trump could easily score massive political points by passing some kind of executive order. Again, it would be shot down in the courts, but let them play it out, because they would consider it to be crossing Article 2 into Article 1 territory. But if he had some kind of EO that basically said you don't get a dime every time you shut down the government, you don't get recesses every time you shut down the government, 90% of the country would be behind that. So again, it's a political win, even if legally it's a bit dubious. But again, that might be a bit of that might have been from our Monday night Q&A, because as you know, that's all been resolved at this point. TSA and DHS are being funded. Michael, Steve, how can you defend Trump when he is folded on every issue that got him elected? He just complained, I don't even, just that sentence there. I mean, Michael, I'm almost hesitant to read on. Are you serious? I mean, there is something called virtualism, virtual reality, where we just live in we live in our own online worlds, not the VR of putting headsets on, but we spend so much time in our own little online echo chambers that we lose perspective of reality. I'm going to stop right there. What do you say about the southern border? What was he going to do? Right? He's going to close it, right? What's been the illegal border crossings of late over the last year on average? 0. Look it up. 0. Nobody's coming into our country illegally through the southern border. The mass deportations are 10x what they've been under any president. Don't buy the idea, more people were deported under Obama. The deportations that counted back then were people getting stopped at the border and then sent back. That's not a deportation in the way Minneapolis was. You look at the amount of manufacturing and industry that's coming back to the country. You look at the drill baby drill policies. You look at his defense of our culture and crushing wokeness, his closing the Department of Education. Why? Put that back up, Josh. This is where your rhetoric gets ahead of your evidence. I'll go on, I'll read because you deserve it, but this is where your rhetoric gets ahead of your evidence. This is where a total, it seems, from where I'm looking at, a total lack of humility, epistemological humility, clouds your judgment of what's happening right now. Now, I get it. The right, the political right, has been on the losing side of things probably for about 200 years with the rise of the modern world, certainly with the industrial age coming, and then with the rise of the liberal democratic order, the liberal international order. I get it. At the heart of a modern liberal world is de-traditionalization. So we're watching all the traditions, customs, nationalisms, and so forth that we love eroded in real time. So conservatives, right, have developed a rhetoric of both resistance and defense. And there is this natural propensity that we're always going to be disappointed. We're always going to be betrayed. And I'm just in that one sentence, this is what I'm hearing. How can you defend her when he is folded on every issue that got him elected? That's patently absurd. And you have not a single poll behind. I bet. Let me see if you're actually giving objective evidence or you're just flapping. He just completely cucked on immigration mass deportations. No, he is not. Again, you have no evidence. Doge has fallen flat. No, it is not. Again, you have no evidence. He hasn't prosecuted a single member of the deep state who tried to ban us all and throw us all in jail. No, not necessarily. And again, you don't have any evidence. And he's broken his promise to keep us out of Middle Eastern conflicts. No, he did not. I'll just flip that. No, he's not going to keep it. He's ending a conflict. He's ending a conflict. And he has said repeatedly, even in his first term, Iran cannot be allowed to have a nuclear weapon because he knew if they did, China has permanent control over the Strait of Hormuz. But again, you're locked into your own little virtual reality. I'm sorry, I can't help you. MAGA populists like Tucker and MTG are turning on Trump because Trump has turned his back on the issues that got him elected. Well, that's certainly what they're telling you, but you don't know that. You don't know. You don't know Tucker. You don't know MTG. You don't know that. So look, your rhetoric is passionate. I get it. But it is devoid completely of any evidential backing whatsoever. So it's just sound and fury signifying nothing. So that's what when I defend Trump, I defend him with solid evidence behind what I'm defending, which just like I presented here today. So look, guys, bottom line, if you want to go the way of the black pillars and the doomers, go ahead. MAGA is growing. MAGA is more popular today than it was in 2024. We have all the data to show. I gave it to you, some of the data there. Trump, for heaven's sakes, even CNN, citing an NBC poll, found that MAGA, self-identified MAGA Republicans gave Trump 100% approval. I just don't know what world you're living in. I'm sorry, I don't. And to cite Tucker and MTG, they are drudge reporting themselves every single day. They are rendering themselves more. We heard the same crap with Matt Drudge back in 2018. Trump has betrayed every single promise, and I'm done with him. We saw it with that Ann Coulter, the political promiscuous nut who left Trump because he MAGA is not you. You're not MAGA. Trump is MAGA. You can't out MAGA Trump. You can't. Sorry. You may have thought MAGA was something that it's not, but that's you. It's on you, dude. It's on Tucker. It's on MTG for whatever reason. Yeah, I noticed you left Candace out, who's batshit crazy. So that's interesting. But go the way of the crowd of irrelevance. Go. I mean, if that's what you want, I will do my best to try to convince you otherwise. But free will, man. All right, Jacko Velaka, what is your prognosis on the duration of the war? It's a good question. There's so many factors. So like the pause that we're going through right now in terms of hitting energy, we're still bombing the heck out of them. But the pause I see as really in the end, yes, Iran is wanting to make a deal, but what Trump is doing is he's putting together a coalition of the Arab states, the GCC states, to police the Persian Gulf and Hormuz. And that's exactly what we wanted. We want to get out of the Middle East. See, again, this is where that previous post, they just don't understand grand strategy. They're reading their Pat Buchanan books and thinking it's 1991 and all that sort of stuff. They don't understand they don't understand the nationalism, the civilizationalism, the technopolarity, the astropolarity, the radical religious resurgence that's happening right now, and how it's radically reshaping the world in a way that just goes way beyond 1991. They're not understanding that this is ultimately all about so America could come home. We're finally going to have a Persian Gulf governed by a pro-U.S. civilizational core that permanently boxes out China. And so he's assembling this GCC coalition as we speak. And we're already getting Qatar, Oman, UAE. UAE is actually leading it. Saudi Arabia. They're all coming together as a GCC alliance. And they're going to make sure that the strait is permanently secure, and thus allowing for the oil to reach most of the parts of the world that is so dependent on. 40% of the world's energy comes through that strait. So, I mean, so those are these 10-day breaks and 5-day breaks, and But I would say within probably at about 2 months. I mean, Trump did say he's supposed to meet with Xi in April. And he did say this should be, he's planning on this being over by the time he meets with Xi. So we're looking at another 4 weeks or so. Franz, Dr. Steve, if the petrodollar is preserved, what does that mean for multipolarity? Great question. So the key with multipolarity, and what a lot of unfortunately multipolar analysts don't see, well, they get, but they don't like it, is that multipolarity is a constant tug of war. So we saw it during the Biden era. The 4 years of the Biden era, the United States was decreasing in power dramatically. We saw it in the Afghan pullout in August of 2021. We saw it with the Russian invasion, the SMO, Special Military Operation, in February 2022 in the Ukraine. And there was really nothing that NATO or the West, the United States as a whole could do about it. All the sanctions they placed on Russia, they endured easily. They absorbed it by virtue of their decoupling from the West economically and pivoting to China, even to India. So during that period of time, we saw the particularly the United States decline, and we saw the other civilization states, Russia, China, and India, rise. Okay, and so that was the tug of war of the multipolar dynamics. What we have to understand is multipolarity, by definition, works in multiple ways, in multiple directions. You can't pre-stack the deck saying, well, no, in order to have a multipolar world, a truly multipolar world, the United States has to fall apart in power. It has to be in a perpetual state of decline, or it has to stay within its own borders or hemisphere. And let China work out the Middle East. Let China, through its proxy of Iran, China was funding Iran to the tune of 80% of their oil. Let China be the one to more or less control Hormuz, the key energy choke point on the planet. Let Russia define Eastern European security and so on. Let India. So that's the argument, that you kind of pre-stack the deck. So anytime America rises up and pushes, it's wrong. It's trying to reassert unipolarity. Unipolarity was inextricably linked to the liberal international order. Okay, that's Charles Krauthammer's entire argument in his essay, very influential essay, Our Unipolar Moment. Unipolarity was rooted in this neocon liberal international order vision of universal human values. And the United States was going to be the one power to enforce those universal human values. That world's dead. That world wasn't even remotely consulted. I mean, remember the speech Colin Powell gave to the UN Security Council before we went into Iraq back in 2003? It turned out to be faulty, but we're showing pictures of all supposedly weapons of mass destruction. And he needed to get the Security Council's blessing to go in to Iraq before they went into Iraq. Same with even Bush's dad. Bush Sr. did something very similar with the first Persian Gulf in terms of the massive multinational coalition they formed. But he tapped into what he called the New World Order of the liberal international order, led by the unipolarity of the United States to enforce universal human values on the rest of the world. That's dead. What we're seeing instead is networked multipolarity. China's been doing it through BRI. Russia does it through its Eurasianism. India is doing it. Japan is doing it through its own version of BRI. Network multipolarity is when you hook up with multiple civilizations, sovereign civilizations, but for a common purpose, and usually because of a common enemy. And that enemy will be understood civilizationally as well. So I think what's happening here in the Middle East is we're seeing the reverse of what we saw in the 4 years under Biden. Now it's the United States that's increasing, and it's Russia, it's China. India's still there. But India is hooked up hooked its onto the bandwagon of the United States right now, and it's moving away from China, which it has no problem doing because, well, they've had a little tense relationship for the last several centuries. But regardless, and then Turkey is very excited because they're seeing with Iran gone, now their power and influence in the region all of a sudden explodes, which we don't mind so much because they're part of NATO. And then that locks NATO in with both the I2U2, which is Israel, India, United Arab Emirates, and the United States, and the Abraham Accords. So all of that is to say, we're in a period now where the United States is reasserting its dominant role within a multipolar world. You can't stack the deck. I'm sorry. I mean, you can't. Again, in a virtual reality, you can. In books, you can. In lectures, you can. But in reality, you can't. No more than we could have stacked the deck of, okay, China's allowed to rise this much, but no more. Okay, you're not allowed to go any farther than that. Or, Russia's allowed to rise this much, but no more than that. You're not allowed to go. The only way you can stop the rise is if you're strong enough to push back on it. And what we did is we found a region of the world that has yet to have a civilizational hegemon fully establish security policy and energy policy in the Middle East and the United States. China was doing it through Iran. The United States is doing it through the Abraham Accords. And we took advantage of the fact that China was not willing to actually militarily defend it, whereas we are. And so to me, in the end, multipolarity is still there, but even with the petrodollar, but the petrodollar signals extraordinary dominance that the United States has in this networked multipolarity from the Western Hemisphere through NATO, through the Abraham Accords and the I2U2, and all the way into the Quad, going all the way to Japan, Australia, and Japan. So we are basically seeing a networked multipolarity centered on the United States that's wrapping around the entire world, and that's largely boxing out China and part of that is to, by the way, do a reverse Kissinger and get Russia to join us, right? To sort of turn their backs on China, and this is why Trump appears to be appeasing Russia so much. It's not so much appeasement per se as it is trying to move Russia away from China under what Trump is arguing the new normal. This is not going away. It doesn't matter who becomes president. This is not going. These alliances don't suddenly disappear. This is the new normal. This is where all the money is coming. Come on over to this networked multipolarity, and let's box out and isolate China as best we can. So it's multipolar power politics, but it's the opposite of what we saw over the last 4 years of Biden, where we were decreasing, Russia and China were increasing. Now they're decreasing and we're increasing. But the multipolar tug of war is just that. It can move in multiple directions. Great question. Is it the one and in lie? Do you think that Iran is trying to lure U.S. into war so China can attack and we wind up in World War III? I can't help but worry, Dr. Steve. No. I'm not seeing anything like that. No, if anything, China has pushed back on Iran. China's foreign minister has told Iran publicly that it needed to stop hitting its neighbors and that it needed to offer to come to the negotiation table. Yeah, I mean, China offered to help broker an agreement, but no. You have to remember, Xi has pretty much wiped out all of his generals. I don't know if you've been watching the purge that's been going on now for a while. It's well over a year. It's been going on for a few years. But Xi is in a position he's not supposed to be in. So Chinese presidents traditionally serve 2 terms. That's it. You move on, and then the CCP votes in a new president. Xi has assumed a massive amount of power to basically get a permanent presidency. And there's a lot of generals, apparently, who do not agree with that. And Xi is purging them because they're vying for possible leadership positions. So they don't really have, they can't the intelligence assessments that I've come across have said that China really can't launch a full-blown war, say, against Taiwan, let alone against the United States. They were supposed to sell Iran hypersonic missiles. They canceled the order, as it were, after the bombs started falling. Same with Russia. I mean, they've just turned their backs on Iran. Iran's got nobody right now. Well, the joke is they've got the UN, CNN, and the Democratic Party. Those are their only three friends at this point. So you don't have to worry. We're not anywhere near there. That's not happening. What's happening is we caught Iran at its weakest, and both Netanyahu and Mohammed bin Salman. Okay, everybody needs to remember that. He's doing the bidding of Israel. No, he's doing the bidding actually of Saudi Arabia. Regional powers, all of them, Arab and Israeli alike, came up to Trump and basically said, we could take this. We're in a unique position to take this regime out. Shall we do it? Because in his first term in 2020, they signed the Abraham Accords. And the Abraham Accords envisioned a Middle East of peace and prosperity governed by Israeli might and Arab money, and brokered by U.S. security guarantees. So if you can get rid of the chief impediment to that vision, namely Iran and its proxies, Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis, if you can get rid of that, we can actually have a Middle East at peace and prosperity. With literally, it all centers around creating Gaza into the Riviera of the Middle East. So that wasn't just rhetoric. That's actually happening. And Trump decided, let's do it. Let's take him out. And so we, in the first 50 seconds of this war, we wiped out virtually their entire, the head, the top of all of their major leaders, and the Ayatollah down. They were just wiped out because they had that very rare meeting where they were all together on a Saturday morning, almost first day of spring. So there you go. It's you don't have to worry about it. There's going to be no war with China. There's nothing like that at all. Again, don't listen to doomers. Don't listen to the right-wing doomers. Their entire careers have been built on resistance and defense. So they're always assuming some kind of offensive, kinetic dynamic for their posture of things, for their under. I mean, again, we're perpetually, for these doomers, we're perpetually at war. Info wars, war room, it's war. We're perpetually at war, and we're at war with a deep state. And what happens when Trump kills the deep state? Well, now Trump's the deep state. Now Trump got taken over by the neocon. No, it's the JOOZ. So just don't turn them off. They're clowns. They know nothing. They literally know nothing. Turn them off. Johnny the Whiz Kid. I don't know if this is true, but I saw on Twitter that Democrats flipped seats in various states, including Florida, and a deep red district. Should we be concerned? I hate to see voters change course in midterms and ruin everything just because of the Iran war and gas prices going up. If they can just let Trump keep doing his thing, keep trusting him and be patient, so it will all pay off, won't it? Yeah, no, I'm with you, Johnny Whiskers. Yeah, we had one hold in Florida, and then we had a couple of flips, but only about 30% of the voting population came out. We've been flipping a few of their seats as well, by the way. I've done some videos on that in these special elections. Look, special elections go back and forth. You can't read too much in them. I like to, however, celebrate when we flip their seats in a midterm year. Because remember, the party in power is the one that starts losing seats inevitably. It's only been reversed 3 times in the last 100 years. And it's known as a refractory period. And basically what happens is that we get the power, the White House, and we're good with it. We're fine with it. Voting for a state representative just doesn't who barely has any power, just doesn't really matter to us. And we don't take the time of the day to even know there was an election. Voting for even for a congressman doesn't really particularly matter. We got the White House. Who cares? Whereas the party that's out of power is stewing, and they just cannot. They live every single day seething in their hate, right? And they can't wait to vote for the dog catcher, just as long as the dog catcher is opposite of opposes the person that's in the White House. So it's known as the refractory period. And so if there are flips, that's actually par for the course during a midterm year. That said, it's about 50-50. We've held or flipped as many seats as they've held or flipped. And that means it's pretty good. So there's no signs to worry about too much. Those seats will definitely flip back in the midterms themselves when the voting population actually comes out. And then just the basic, again, you're talking about districts that are overwhelmingly Republican. So just Democrats just don't have the numbers. And there would have to be a disaster. I mean, absolute disaster, $12 a gallon gas, Iran falling apart, Trump falling apart. Then you could see it. They're not going to come out. But again, it's not 2018 anymore. The redistricting has really consigned contested districts to, as I understand it, less than 2-3% of the districts out there. 97% of the districts are foregone conclusions. If they flip in an off year, don't pay any attention to it. MAGA 20 forever. Besides the general trend to poor midterm results for the political party in power, and there are there any other advantages favoring Democrats in 2026 midterms? Seems like Republicans have an advantage in favorability ratings, registration numbers, and monetarily, among many other. Yes, okay, you're thinking really well, MAGA 24. So the simple answer is no, they don't. They certainly don't have any. There's more Democrats up for re-election in the Senate than are Republicans, and the Republicans that are up for re-election are generally seasoned veterans like Susan Collins in Maine, who just finds a way of always winning in Maine. And keep in mind, Maine is very hard to poll. It's a very difficult state to poll, and she always ends up winning in the end. And we tend to vote. We vote overwhelmingly for incumbents, and Maine voters tend to like Susan Collins. Because also remember, Maine is just about a +2 Democrat or so. So it's not a heavy Democrat state. We have a chance at New Hampshire. So either they're seasoned veterans or they're just solid red state like Ohio. So we don't have to worry about it. Or Texas. North Carolina, we'll see. North Carolina is still very young and green when it comes to its redness. It's only leading by a few thousand in terms of its Republican advantage. So we'll see if Roy Cooper, who's a Democrat and who's used to be a very popular governor, we'll see if he can pull it off there. But you got it. Republicans have very good favorability ratings. Again, contextually, a magnificent registration numbers, leading in all. When all said and done, they are leading in all 30 states that track voter registration by party, and they're crushing the Democrats, if I recall, 7-1, 8-1 when it comes to money. Now, Democrats do have outside, they got the Soros money, they got the NGO money, but again, USAID is gone. They don't have that anymore, and a lot of what Soros was getting was coming from USAID. So we'll have to see how that plays out here, but right now, definitely. I would add to that the redistricting fights. So Virginia is not a done deal. I don't know if you've been keeping an eye on that. Virginia is an uphill climb for Democrats right now. Republicans are in. They're now again. Virginia is now in the refractory mode. They won the governor's mansion. They won control of their House of Delegates. Now it's the Republicans are pissed off. It's the Republicans now who are pushing back, and they're motivated, and they're coming out and voting against this referendum that would approve of basically circumventing committee that decides on districting and putting it in the hands of a partisan legislator. And it may not even survive a court challenge too. So we have to keep that in mind. So and then we've got the VRA decision. Again, it's driving me crazy. It's probably going to be more in June, but it doesn't matter. The VRA will, if it comes out our way, it will strike down upwards of 19. It'll strike down more than that, but it'll strike down 19 deep blue districts in deep red states, southern states, and they will easily be able to gerrymander that into solid red pickups. So I'd keep an eye on the redistricting more and more and more, whether we like it or not. Just the way our politics are turning out. The congressional races in the House are going to be decided by partisan redistricting efforts, and really the day of swing districts are going. The good news is that there's more red districts than blue districts, right? There's little blotches of blue districts, but there's lots and lots of red districts, and we should be able to win that battle as well. Richard, Dr. Steve, are you tired of doomers as I am? Are you as tired of doomers as I am? Well, you know what? It's funny you asked that question, because I'm not so tired of doomers, because I don't listen to doomers. I don't care about doomers. I chuckle at them. Again, because doomers are just living in a world that doesn't even exist anymore. It's when they start saying it's the Jews or it's the neocons or Trump betrayed. I mean, they're just living in a world that just doesn't exist. They're living in their own little VR. What bothers me is the way they affect and impact people that cross-pollinate into my audience. And I think they generate a sort of fatalism and defeatism and anxiety that I guess because you guys, I really love you guys. And so I take that personally. I don't like the way they inordinately affect you. How can you even possibly imagine things being better than they are? Just let it hit you. How could you even possibly imagine things being better than they are? With Trump in office. Every day has been like Christmas. And then you get a bunch of whiny, despairing Eeyore like so-called influencers who obviously don't have a lot of influence, because the polls certainly don't suggest it, who just every day complain and whine and wipe their noses and say he betrayed, he's not doing what I want him to do. And I just see I just see a bunch of duped narcissists who are going for clicks and who decided that, hey, I was doing pretty well when I was fighting the good fight, when I was going to war against the establishment. Now Trump's the establishment, so I'm going to go to war with him, and I'm going to bring a bunch of people with me who are going to make some of the most absurd arguments. They're not even arguments. They're going to make some of the most absurd claims. Imagine, like what we heard earlier, how can you defend Trump when he's betrayed every single thing he's promised us? I just, what do you even say to that? The hyperbole is so, again, I never believed there was a woke right until we attacked Iran. In terms of my short-sightedness, I never believed it. I never believed the James Lindsays or anything like that there's a woke right. I believe it now because I've been in the receiving end of it. I see it now. So now I'm a pro-Israel Zionist cuck. That's what I've been called by people. Oh, really? The guy who defended, I just simply making the argument from great power politics that great powers do not tolerate peer competitors within civilizational spheres. I've been defending Russia since the moment the incursion into Ukraine. I've been arguing it was more or less, bottom line, it was NATO's fault. There were plenty of off ramps that they could have taken. They never did. and that never had to happen. I've been making that, and now suddenly and I've never changed my opinion on that. And I see the same thing here. There are great power politics playing in a hegemon-free zone that China is trying to take over, and the United States said, "F you, we're taking over." And why? How do you know why? What right does the United States have to it? Because we're strong and we can do it. It's called great power politics. Welcome to great power politics. It's got who are you going to appeal? I've seen right wingers appeal to the UN. Jeffrey Sachs. They appeal to these guys. That's a war crime. You're not allowed to do that. According to whom? Now, who's the globalist now? Who's the defender of liberal international norms now? It's insane. So, no, they personally don't bother me. It's how they adversely affect people who are wanting to cheer for Trump, but are being betrayed in that celebration by influencers that they had trusted. And I would just say, one of the best things you can possibly do is just, find the doomers, find the black pillars, and just turn them off. Just don't listen to them. They're whatever. If they have a good point, you'll find it somewhere else. It'll matriculate elsewhere. But without the absurd doom and gloom behind it, just throw it away. Again, they're living in a world that just doesn't exist anymore. So let them hang out in their virtual reality, and there are a couple of million followers, and we'll save civilization ourselves. Catherine, how hard would it be to pass a bill that would make federal agencies 50% private, or have these agencies continue to get funds even during shutdowns? Wow. Oh no, that would be very hard. You'd have to completely restructure the federal agencies. Again, you're not going to get that in our hyper partisan context. No, in the end, what happened over the last 24 hours, I think, is the indelible pattern for the foreseeable future, unless, of course, the Senate finally gets rid of the filibuster with the rule change from the 1970s. That's basically that created the context for its total paralysis. Remember, no major non-appropriations bills have passed since Obamacare in 2010. Every major bill that's passed has had to pass by way of reconciliation. It's had to have some budget significance, but no major bill has passed outside of the budget, the reconciliation process since Obamacare. So it's been shut down for 16 years, and it'll be shut down for another 16 years. So what Trump is saying is, all right, that's it. We're just going to do Article 2 governance. We're going to bypass Article 1. We're going to go to Article 2. Or the executive power invested in the president will be the guiding principle for all law from this point forward. So executive branch, executive orders are the key, I think. Thrawn, why is no one talking about the California governor's race? What are your thoughts? Can Republicans actually win California? Great question. That's a great question. And I've been wondering when to do this video. Yes. In a simple answer, yes, we can end up seeing two Republicans in their win their jungle primary. So if you guys don't know, jungle primaries, a lot of states have them. I didn't realize this. A lot of states in the South have them. Jungle primaries where you jumble everyone together. Europe has a bunch. You jumble everyone together. If nobody, Republican and Democrat, and if nobody gets 50%, then the top two have a runoff. And so right now, because there's so many Democrats in there, they're splitting the vote, that the top two vote getters right now in terms of support in the polls are both Republicans. So theoretically, California can have a runoff with between two Republicans, and they could try to out-Republican each other, which would be just stunning. I mean, out-MAGA each other, and the like. Steve Hilton being one of them, right? So The question, though, is I think everyone is they just, oh, ye of little faith, right? We just don't think, we can't imagine them pulling it off. We just see enough Democrats finally kind of getting paid off. Look, you'll like what we saw in 2020, where all of these Democrats, Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar, they all just dropped out. Even Sanders, they all just dropped. Warren, they dropped out to coronate Biden, and some of them were promised administrative positions, like Buttigieg with transportation. It was an absolute abject disaster. So that may happen, and if it happens, then it's gonna be hard because it's just a math issue. There's just too many Democrats. That said, they may be done. We'll see. They may be done with this insanity. I mean, California is the very definition of a failed state for the most part. And I mean, listen to what James Woods, the actor who lost his house in the Palatine fire, Palisades fire. I mean, he's just listen to the horror stars that they took. And again, to my knowledge, not a single brick has been laid since the fires. I mean, it's just that insane. Or Bill Maher. Listen to Bill Maher talk about how insane the Democrats have gotten in California. So we may be there, but we have yet to see. The closer we get to the original jungle primary, the better idea we'll have. But yes, Republicans can actually win in California. Be amazing. BB, a little concerned about oil prices. Still trust Trump. He's not W. He's got a plan. I just hope we can do decently in the midterms. Yeah, don't let. Yeah, no, I hear you, BB. Don't be held hostage by the midterms. Don't do that. That's what the doomers are doing to you. Don't let them weaponize the midterms. Trump's going to do what's right and what's good for the rising civilizationalist world that the United States is the very center of. Don't let them hold you hostage with the midterms. Midterms thus far look like they're going to be just fine. Again, we may lose because that's just the pattern, but we're not going to lose by much. And I'm just talking about the House. Senate, they'll still be gridlocked there, and nothing will get done either way. So, and Trump will still be using his EO powers and the full authority of Article 2. So don't worry about it. Don't worry about the midterms. And that's a very freeing thing. No, the price increases with energy, with oil prices are by definition minimal. I mean, we're not seeing anything like what we've seen before. They're staying within around 90, even getting down into the 80s, especially with WTI. And as soon as Hormuz is opened up, because it's priced globally, oil's priced globally, it's gonna nosedive in terms of prices. And then you ain't seen nothing yet. And once energy prices go down, the price of everything goes down. KWE, the Dems have removed all immigration enforcement funds from the DHS funding. No money to any agency. What if reconciliation bill doesn't work? Numbers in House. No, you're wrong, KWE. The funding for ICE and immigration enforcement and the Customs and Borders Patrol (CBP) has been front loaded till 2029. Again, if you're listening to any influencer telling you differently, you need to turn them off. They don't know what they're talking about. They have had nearly $80 billion appropriated to ICE agents, CBP, ICE enforcement for the next 3 years. So any attempt at trying to defund ICE was futile. So that's why they went to trying to dismantle ICE, or they were making these demands that, okay, well, they have to take off their mask and they have to wear body cam and they have to get a warrant before they can go. They were just trying to impede them, but there's no defunding them, none. So they didn't agree to funds for ICE or for the immigration enforcement side of DHS because we don't need them. We're good for the next 3 years. You have to let the spaghetti-o Byzantine nonsense of DC just play itself out. But the Republicans would never have agreed to anything that defunded. Well, they couldn't have because the money's already been appropriated. It's been front loaded. But they wouldn't have agreed to anything that in any way hampered the mass deportation efforts. Don't have to worry about it. We're on the winning side, people. We're on the winning side. We're winning. You have to just go, maybe look in the mirror. What is it? Does Jim Carrey do that? One of his characters, I'm a winner. I'm a winner. I'm a winner. Look into the mirror and just say, I'm a winner. I'm a winner, right? I mean, we're winning, guys. We're winning. Stop Alex Jonesing everything. We're winning. It's okay. It's okay to win. Feels really good. It's really freeing. It's really exciting. And you go about your day. So I guess we're all still a little traumatized from what was it? The night, the few days the morning after November 3rd of 2020, when we went to bed and Trump was up 800,000 votes in Pennsylvania, and there was obviously no more votes to be found, and looked like we were going to win Georgia relatively easily. And then all of a sudden we wake up one morning and all of a sudden all these trucks came in, and we're shocked to find out that 1 million plus votes came in for Biden, all Biden. And that was cool. Nobody had any problem with that. Oh, that's just because it was a late Philadelphia delivery or late Pittsburgh delivery. I guess we still have some PTSD from that. That's the thing. I think the left suffers from TDS, and we suffer from PTSD from the day after the election of 2020, when we thought we won. And we were so shocked to find that they could cheat like that. So I get it. We just have this propensity towards, we're going to be betrayed. They're going to screw us. We're going to lose. And, you just got to throw that away. It's a decision. You got to make that decision. But who do you think is financially benefiting from that? It's the black pillars. It's the doomers. They're financially benefiting from that. They want you upset. They want you in hysterics. They want you anxious. It's what makes them just disgusting, in my view. Again, if it's true, I'll do it. I mean, I'll always be the first one to say, yeah, guys, this doesn't look good. I'll be the first one to tell you that. I have. But alas. Adam, hi, Dr. C. Do you think President Trump will get us out of NATO before his term is up? Trump is very upset with NATO. I've actually, remember his first term, he called NATO obsolete. He is very upset with NATO. I have not seen him this upset with NATO. He keeps saying, he said it at the cabinet meeting yesterday. This was a test. This was a test to see if they would come to our aid. We came to theirs with Ukraine. Ukraine wasn't our war. We didn't give a flip about it. But we gave more money to Ukraine than all the other countries combined in Europe. Because they're just a bunch of pampered, lazy welfare recipients when all said and done. That's really what they are. They're stuck-up, snobby, brazen welfare recipients. And they've relied on the United States to provide their security architecture now for 70 years. Now, yeah, we can, we certainly took advantage of that. We certainly have made sure that they acted in accordance with a vassal state. But now they're trying to push back and claim their independence from us a bit, which I'm fine with, by the way. I believe in civilizationalism, so that's what they want. But at least have something to show for it. At least, if Poland were the norm in terms of its economy and its military forces, or if Ukraine, to its credit, militarily were the norm. I mean, Ukraine could invade the entire continent if they wanted to. The Ukrainian forces could. I mean, if that were the norm, I get it. Okay, and you can talk smack. You say, yeah, we don't want nothing to do with what you're doing in the Persian Gulf. Fine, but you're 5x more dependent on the oil that comes through Hormuz. You've had missiles fired at Turkey, a NATO member. And then you had the United States, not a NATO member, but the core of NATO, request your assistance. And you have the arrogance to go, no, thanks. No, we're interested in doing other things. We're not going to get involved in that. So I would not be surprised if Trump came up with a very different architecture. The architecture of NATO to the Middle East tends to go through Turkey. Turkey's very involved in the Abraham Accords alliance. I don't think they're one of the signers of it, but they don't have to be because they're part of NATO. So many theorists are arguing, analysts are arguing, the United States should just look at Europe and say, you know what? You're on your own. Enjoy Vlad in your backyard. You handle him. It's not our fight. This is not our war. And we're all in with Israel, who's an amazing ally, who's always there with us, and with the Gulf states, Mohammed bin Salman, UAE, Qatar, Oman, they're with us. And Erdogan does his own thing in Turkey, but generally speaking, he goes wherever the power, what's ever going to increase Turkey's influence and power, which right now is via the United States. So a lot of people are saying, screw NATO. Let's go all in with the Abraham Accords and let basically at this point, Europe either revive their Christian civilization or let them rot, but at this point, there's just the absurdity of Denmark screaming over Greenland when only 50,000 people live there. Not even the size, for heaven's sakes, it's the size of a small town in the United States. 50,000 people live there. And no, you can't touch Greenland. Screw you. It's in our hemisphere. We'll do whatever we want with it. So, Richard, what do you think of freedom? Freedom.gov, the EU portal to bypass censorship. And what sarcasm could they do to retaliate because we bypass their censorship? Very good question. I don't know, Richard. I mean, I'm all for it. I love the idea that, again, why are you censoring a free people? If you think about it, let people talk, let them say what they say. And if they're idiots, you can throw them away. There's always going to be another voice to point out what kind of idiots they are. So that's Elon's theory. As long as it's not illegal, as long as it's like not calls to violence or anything like that, or threatening or something, as long as it's not illegal, you have to let them speak. But no, the liberal international order that's dead, nevertheless, continues to live in the imagination of the European elites. And it's really, I'm sure they could figure out ways to push back. The government, one of the theories of technopolarity was that Silicon Valley was exercising power that rivaled nation states, so that real power was no longer understood nationally. It was understood in terms of technological platforms more and more. So Facebook, for example, if it were a country, would be by far the most populated country on the planet with over 2 billion users. Same with YouTube or Google. And so scholars were arguing that increasingly power was transferring away from states and going and finding itself residing in the hands of techno CEOs like an Elon Musk or a Zuckerberg or so. The problem with that theory, it's very fascinating, but it has since been in many ways debunked, because one of the arguments they made is, look at what Twitter did to Trump after J6 in 2021. They actually banned a sitting president, and they locked him out of his account. And Facebook then followed suit. So that was Dorsey at the time, Twitter, and then Zuckerberg. And they were saying, you see, they're more powerful than the state. Well, we now know, thanks to Twitter files, they were working hand in hand with the state. The FBI, right, particularly, they were sheep dipping. They were sending a lot of their agents who claimed they had retired from the FBI and the CIA, but who now were working inside Facebook and Twitter, and so we now know that this was a coordinated effort of the deep state. It wasn't the techno CEO versus the state. It was the techno CEO aligned with the state. And we're finding out, as Europe is showing, that if the state wants to clamp down on techno CEOs, they sure as hell can do it. Techno CEOs don't have armies. States do. So they can clamp you down real quick. Techno CEOs don't own the airwaves. States do. They can clamp down really quick. So that's bottom line is I think the EU can figure out plenty to thwart it and frustrate it. What we want instead is we want to see the growing nationalist populist movements around the continent succeed. That's certainly part of the national security strategy of the United States report that was published back in December that said that Europe is committing civilizational suicide, and that it is now the policy of the United States to support all of the populist right parties so as to restore the confidence in Europe's self-identity as a Christian civilization. When you do that, that's when you begin to start to see things like free speech flourish. Because free speech, read John Milton's defense of it, the Puritan. Free speech was considered to be integral to the proclamation of the gospel. So free speech has always been a very important part, particularly Christian ethos of the last 500 years. Savage Helios 1. I love that title. Are we living in the timeline of great historical period? Trump's story is like a movie. Oh yeah. Definitely. I think so. The book I'm writing is called The Civcosm. It's the rise of the death of the liberal international order and the rise of the civilizational cosmocracy. And this war is certainly setting a stage for the revelation of this great historical period we're rising in. So whereas the modern liberal world sought to sideline religion, in this new world, what I'm calling civcosm, civilizational cosmocracy, religion is front and center. So we're seeing religion literally everywhere, resurgent in the world today. And this is largely because of demographics. When all is said and done, liberal seculars have stopped having kids, and conservative religions are having more kids than ever. And we're seeing that everywhere. We're seeing that either intentionally with, people with a pro-natalist worldview, or just unintentionally, just in terms of rural areas around the world, even Southeast Asia, where that tends to have a low demography, low fertility, but the people who are having kids are inordinately religious and rural bound and so on. So religion is at the center of this new world that's rising. Religion is at the center of this war. It's not just the theocracy of Iran. Israel's considered a soft theocracy. All the Gulfs, the GCCs, have different levels of theocracy by which they're governed, particularly Saudi Arabia. We're even being helped by India, and India is Hindu nationalists under the RSS and the BJP, the Bharatiya Janata Party, and Narendra Modi. And the United States is considered as well to be, in many ways, scholars, a soft theocracy, in that we've always seen ourselves as the city shining on a hill. When our forefathers crossed over from Europe to the United States, it was envisioned as a Red Sea crossing. and that we were inheriting a promised land. That's exactly what the Manifest Destiny and Monroe Doctrine, all that, were a part of. It's a very theological vision. But at the same time, we're also seeing a technological age rising. And so the old age was an industrial age. The liberal international order was an industrial order, so centered around cities and municipalities. And again, religion and science, tradition and tech really didn't have anything to do with each other. Whereas now we're moving from an industrial age to what's known as the digital age, or the cyber civilization age. It's also known as the noosphere. And that is extraordinarily religious. That's the first person to capture the whole concept of the noosphere. Théo de Chardin, the French theorist, actually believed that it was the human consciousness, human minds, all crystallizing and coming together through computer-based and telekinetic technology and telecommunicative technology, and that the more human minds become more super-minded, the more religious they actually get. It's a process known as techno-Gnosticism, or technosis, as I think Eric Davis would call it. So we're becoming more religious, we're becoming radically technological, and many people are calling this war the fifth generation of warfare, where cyberspace and satellites are coming in and fighting what's normally third generation warfare, which is land, sea, and air. So the use of AI has shortened the kill chain from days. So we get information beamed in from satellites, and then you get analysts making decisions of the target and so forth. That could take days. Today, through AI, that's exact same kill chain process takes literally split seconds. It's absolutely insane. You bring in quantum computing and so forth. I mean, you're just living in a completely different world. We're relating to each other in a way that our parents couldn't even have imagined when they were our age, that we would be relating to each other, actually talking to each other through the TV, as it were. It's astonishing, but that's the age of the noosphere and technopolitics alike. And then there's a third level, and that's astropolitics. And that's the politics of outer space. And that's where the United States dominates. There are 25,000 or so satellites that are constantly revolving around the world. Only about half are functional, to around 12,000 are functional. 70% of our calls, 60, 70% are all from Starlink. They're all from Elon. He's shooting out satellites left and right. We have a lunar base that's scheduled in the next few years to be fully built. And then that lunar base will complement the space station, which both a combination of which will complement terraforming on Mars, most likely by 2035. So the world is extending, and then all the whether it's the Apollo or Artemis or the Chinese Tianxia or whatever it is, all of these projects are radically religious and mythological in their imaginative terms and so on. So we're living more and more in a world that there's no term for it yet. And I just coined the phrase Civ calls them a civilizational cosmocracy, where the great religious civilizations of old are rising up and through technological advancement are reaching their highest cosmic expression. So yes, in a nutshell, we are in a great historical period, and Trump is right at the center, and he's eyeing everything, whether it's our civilizational renewal, whether it's Bitcoin and crypto and AI and our technological advancement, or whether it's in the space program. It's just he's at the front lines of it all. And that's it. Oh no, that Savage Helios, is that it? What do you got, Josh? Did I make you fall asleep? Are we living in the timeline of great historical period? What do you got, bud? All right, we got some. Kim, sorry, I just turned in. I'm not sure if you already answered, but how is the SAVE Act doing? All right. So the SAVE Act, we're going to have to wait for it to get saved until after Easter because they're already on recess. But in the end, I think as of today, Trump showed how to get this stuff done. One way or another, we're going to have a SAVE Act. One way or another, only citizens are going to be allowed to register to vote. They're going to have ID proving their citizenship, and you're going to have voter ID at the polling stations. And it's either going to be done through the Senate, most likely through a reconciliation process, or it's going to be done through an executive order. And it's such a politically popular issue. We're talking 70-80% of the public supporting it, that Trump is going to he's going to dare the Democrats challenge this in the court, and then he's going to turn an entire political campaign around it. So I think we're okay with it. I think eventually they'll buckle just like they did with funding for the TSA. Mark, tuning in late. Anything new with Venezuela and Cuba? Is there any talks of new leadership there? Good question. I have not caught up on that of late. Venezuela is there. It's status quo. So it is the old Maduro administration, but with new blood in, and the new blood wants to play ball with the United States. A little metaphor there for the great Venezuelan international team that won in the series, World Series, literal. And then Cuba, I have not heard as of yet, but Marco Rubio is working on it, which is amazing because he's the son of Cuban immigrants. But they'll be fully part of a U.S. aligned Western Hemisphere. That's in the cards. Will, Dr. Steve, good AM. Your thoughts on the Miami election in the Mar-a-Lago district with the Democrat woman defeating the GOP African-American. Once again, it's GOP fecklessness and laziness not helping the GOP candidate win, or was there something else? I don't know the particulars of it too much. The RNC right now is a bit ridiculous. They're making a lot of money, but I haven't seen anything comparable to when Mike Watley and Laura Trump were running it. They ran an amazing RNC. And right now, I couldn't even tell you who's in charge of the RNC right now. So they're not helping. That said, only about 30% of the voting public came out. Obviously, the majority of them barely were Democrats. But it's a district where they'll lose easily in 2026. I wouldn't pay a lot of attention to it, worry about it. Keep in mind, the opposition party flipping seats is the norm during a midterm. It's known as a refractory period, where after a party gets major power, like the White House, smaller elections like this don't really matter. Whereas for the opposition party, the party that lost, electing the dog catcher means everything. So I wouldn't put a lot of stock into it. Joan, I'm having difficulty finding out details on how the SAVE Act will be implemented. I've called both my senators representatives, and they're not sure. I called Anna Paulina Luna's office, too. She says, tying it to the FISA appropriations bill, right, that's passed the House is the way to go. And so why didn't the House do that when it was in the House? It's still not clear. Well, okay. It's still not clear if we all register once again, if we all re-register. Republicans need to explain better. Can you sort that out? Yeah, maybe. No, we don't. Okay, I can go backwards. No, you don't re-register. The SAVE Act requires that all names go through a Homeland Security ICE-based database that confirms your citizenship. And then once your citizenship is confirmed, you're fine. You're good to go. You don't have to worry about it. It's being able to root out. It's all the states would be required by law to submit their full voter rolls for a nationalized database to determine their citizenship. That's part of the SAVE Act. So no, you would not have to re-register. Anna Paulina, she's just giving suggestions, I think, in many ways for the Senate. How do you pass it? Because the House has already passed it. So they would have to re-vote on it if it got connected to FISA or if it got passed as an appropriations bill. But what you're looking for is the way of either bypassing the 60 vote threshold or overcoming it with something like FISA, because FISA is coming up for renewal in the next month. And which is interesting because Trump doesn't really care for FISA. But most Democrats want to renew FISA, and it could give them the cover they need to vote for a very, very popular bill, the SAVE Act, if it's connected to it, and so that they reach the 60 vote threshold. It would give them the cover they need against their more rabid leftist, provocateurs, as it were. In the end, I think John Kennedy is arguing it should be a reconciliation bill, because voter rolls, CBO can score the amount of money we would save in welfare payments, in Social Security, in unemployment, based on an audit of who's actually a citizen. So that's what they're trying to argue there. Franz, Dr. Steve, what would a populist alignment of Poland, Germany, Austria, Italy, Hungary, Romania do to the EU? Well, it'd probably kill it. You'd be breaking into, you'd be breaking Europe into basically blocks. That's it. But that's a stretch, though. I could definitely see Poland. I could see Austria and Hungary and Romania. So Poland and Hungary are already known as the Visegrad Four, right? With the Czech Republic and Slovakia. Austria is often, it kind of plays footsies with it, but when all said and done, Austrians see themselves as German, and they'll stick wherever Germany goes. So Germany, I don't think sees itself as Visegrad. Romania I could see that, but Romania really starts getting Eastern Europe at that point, whereas Visegrad is more considered Central Europe. But yeah, any one of those kinds of blocks or alliances starts to, at least, like BRICS is competing with G7 or G20. This would start competing with the EU. But again, the EU is what is it, 22, 23 countries? It's a big block, so it's hard to take on. But in the end, what most nationalist populists want to do is just basically take over the EU rather than get out of it. Although Alice Fidel of AFD is basically saying, if you vote us in and we're out of the EU, we're done with it. So we'll have to see. P. Favada, no experienced generals left. Phony tech, water from missile fuel. I love it. Cracking carrier, shocked by 5D war from U.S. Paper tiger wearing depends. Dude, I forgot to mention self-sunk submarine in port. Dude, Pete Favada, you gotta start writing. You've got this way of prose. I love it. But yeah, no, I mean, there is. It's becoming more and more commonplace. I'm noticing among the commentariat that there's no way Iran wins this, and Iran knows that. Their only hope is to hunker down and hope to outweight Trump. That's their only hope. And they do that by trying to win the PR battle by, putting out that stupid AI, as you mentioned, but also just putting, the foreign minister of Iran right now is talking about how the United States deliberately hit a school and things like that, to try to generate sympathy, and then have the legacy media push those talking points. Or there are other ways to maybe find a way of getting some kind of peace deal that'll buy them time, like they were able to convince Trump to end the 12-day war back in June of 2025. So that might do it. But again, those days are over. I just don't see. There's no indication that Trump is going to squander this opportunity. None at all. Remember, he's not up for re-election, and he's not held prisoner by the midterms like so many people are. He's going to do the right thing. Well said, P. Favada. The land only. Now, if we can just get no mail ballots and end second voter or the Section 2 of the VRA. Yeah, no, that'd be considered a full victory for sure. Mark Loverman. I'm from Maine. Typically, North Maine leans Republican. Southern Maine, sadly, where I live, is Democrat. I love Maine. I grew up in Connecticut. We vacationed in Maine in the summer. I did some videos a couple of years. Actually, it was the summer right before November 2024. It's lovely. I love Maine. It's beautiful. Tucker Carlson lives up in Maine. It's a beautiful state. But yeah, and it's very working class. But yeah, unfortunately, very, very blue in many respects. So Northern Maine is more Republican. Okay. Yeah. I'm Southern and mid. Burkay, I believe, or Abe Burkay, super sticker. Thank you so much for that. Franz, Dr. Z, what do you think Michelle Tafoya's chances are as Republican Senate candidate in Minnesota? I'll have to catch up with that. It may be harder. So midterm elections, if she's up for election this year, midterm elections are harder in blue states when they're harder in states that favor the opposition. They're harder because they can't wait. They'll crawl through broken glass just to vote against, appease their TDS. But I'll have to look at the polls. I don't know. Linux, Trump has indicated he's not concerned about a new government in Iran. Do you think the United States should help usher in a new government in Iran in order to prevent the wrong people to fill the power vacuum? Yeah, careful. Trump is going to say what he thinks needs to be said, which is just another way of saying, a lot of this is psyop. A lot of this is he's saying what he thinks Iran needs to hear. He's saying what he thinks the world needs to hear. He's not saying what he's necessarily going to do. That's just the way you have to read it. And what you got to do is you got to put the pieces together in terms of what's actually happening. So when he said, okay, we're going to do a 10-day pause on destroying your electrical grid and energy platforms and infrastructure, why is he doing that? Well, he said because they're bargaining in good faith. Yes, and every single GCC nation is coordinating to put in a security force to patrol Hormuz, and he's buying them 10 days to do that. And how did he buy him 10 days to do that? Basically securing a ceasefire with Iran. So you just have to watch how all the pieces. He doesn't care if they're bargaining in good faith or not. He's got them exactly where he wants them. There's nothing that they can do other than just to try to wait him out. That's where they are right now. But yes, I think he's suggested he wants regime change. Bismo, the Doomers are claiming that mass deportation as a policy is stopped. Is ICE surging anywhere like they did in Minnesota and Charlotte? Can Republicans unify? Yeah, there is a really good article out on, let me see if I can grab it on my computer. Wake up. There was a really good argument on where ICE has been most effective. First of all, turn off the Doomers. Just don't. I mean, again, they only do it because they make money at it. This is their business model. They don't actually believe this stuff necessarily. Maybe they do. Maybe they're that, dumb. But I really wouldn't pay any attention to them. That said, I'm just racking up time, wasting time trying to find this article. Let's see. Came across it. Share with it for you guys here. Zero Hedge has a very interesting article on. It's called Data Shows Where ICE Has Been More Effective and Why. And let's see. Yeah, so what's actually happening? It's based on a Wall Street Journal report that said that Trump is seeking a lower profile of his mass deportation effort in order just to keep it very popular. So they were the mass deportations have. Tom Homan made that very clear the other day at CPAC. We haven't stopped, not even remotely. What's happened is they've backed off from the massive confrontation with the rabid nuts in Minneapolis, because they thought in the end it was getting a bit squeamish for the middle, those who voted for Trump, but they're not MAGA. Okay, so that's bottom line. And he's had it says, according to the report, Trump has had conversations with his top advisors in which he's indicated that he's become convinced that some of his administration's deportation policies have gone too far and voters don't like the term mass deportation. But nevertheless, it's cosmetic. And he wants to continue the mass deportations. And so some of the biggest totals are actually coming out of red states, Florida, Texas, where there are no headline grabbing raids. Meanwhile, Los Angeles, Chicago, Minneapolis, they're getting all the headlines because you got all these Karens and these woke idiots getting in the way and looking like they're freedom fighters and so forth. What they found was that the loudest operations, LA, Chicago, Minneapolis, were not the most productive. The quietest ones were. And so the Miami field office, which covers Florida, Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, logged nearly 10,000 arrests between mid-December and March 10th, outpacing Dallas, Atlanta, and San Antonio. Florida has maintained high and steady climbing arrest numbers all year without a marquee federal operation dominating the news cycle. LA and Denver both peaked last summer, been trending a bit downward. But the bottom line of this article is that red states, where all authorities, local, state, and federal authorities are all cooperating with each other, they don't get any headlines, and yet they're getting the most amount of illegals out of here. And so they decided, just for this period of time during this lull of that with headlines going elsewhere, they decided to really focus in on the red states where they're getting the most bang for the buck. So doomers be damned, they're wrong again. They're always wrong. Always, by definition. Mitchell, ironically, it's a blessing that Trump lost in 2020 because the mask fell off the Democrats. We saw them for who they really are. It isn't. It's astonishing thing. You know, the hero's arc works, doesn't it? You know, you got to have the hero's arc. You got to have the Aragorn in the wilderness to come back as the triumphant king in order to expose the wilderness period exposes the true evil. It's the hero's journey arc, the story arc, epical, goes back thousands of years. And it works every time, and works, meaning not just pragmatically, but works spiritually as well. Rachel, thoughts on Afro Man and his lemon pound cake? I don't know who Afro Man is and his lemon pound cake. What is that? I don't know. Maybe Josh knows. Our producer knows. Sorry, Rachel. I bet it's funny. I just don't know it. And that's me. It's all on me. You're probably doing it just fine. Spartacus. Yeah, if you could look that up, Josh, let me know while I answer this. Spartacus Rockto. Dr. Seuss, so many people are saying that prophecies in the Bible are being fulfilled by the Iran attacking the Temple Mount. Bring on the apocalypse. I have a feeling this was a contingency plan of theirs all along. What do you think? Well, yeah, I mean, it depends how you read the prophecies in the end. You know, I just, I'm not seeing it. I'm really not seeing it. I get it. Some are, Tucker's certainly been going in that direction, or at least it seemed from what I understand. But no, Iran doesn't have anything. They're not going to do anything. They're completely defanged at this point. And there's not a lot. And again, destroying the Temple Mount, that's a mosque on top of the Temple Mount, and destroying that mosque would only enrage Muslims. It's for Iran to do that. So I guess they could say it was a false flag and Israel did it, but again, I don't see how they could even get a missile there at this point. So no, I don't buy a lot. Again, I'm very theological, but and certainly Iran has apocalyptic theology in its 12 imams or their Shia theology, but I don't see that playing out here. Catherine, Dr. Steve, President Trump success rate on all main issues. In my 67 years on this planet, I've seen more movement in setting up a complete change in political direction by one man. I can clearly see changes to the root corruption and positive movement to improving American quality of life. I think the arrest of the bad actors will come. I appreciate he isn't wasting time accusing and arresting people. That won't help us in the long run. People are so short-sighted. Opinion. Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think there is a radical perspectivalism that loses all epistemological humility and then just comes out. I guess, again, it's an emotional, visceral reaction, and it just comes out. It's literally like the teenager. I'm sorry to be so crass with it, but it's literally like the teenager looking at the parent. You never let me do anything. Seriously? I mean, literally, seriously? Can you hear yourself? Now, so what I try to do is what's the teenager saying? The teenager's saying this is something that's really, really important to me, and you're shutting it down, and that hurts. So, okay, for some people in the MAGA movement, there were some really important things that they feel like Trump hasn't done, and it hurts them. And so then they go the radical perspectival route. Well, he hasn't done anything. You never let me do anything, and on a channel where I hope we have very rich intellectual discussions where everyone walks away, myself included, feeling like, wow, we've really learned something here. That was really good. That helps put things in perspective. And then that enables you to live your best life. I just expect more. I don't know what to say. You're never going to hear me talk that way, right? You're never going to hear me talk that way. So I just, I don't know any other way of putting it other than it's teenagery. It's somebody, they get hurt. And they felt betrayed by Trump in one thing or a couple of things, and then they just extend it to everything. And then they just want to draw everyone down into their misery. And I just, hopefully nobody here on this channel has any time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Thune caved to Democrats last night. There it is. Not even remotely, not even kind of. The only people who caved were Democrats last night. But if you care to MV Starcatcher, if you care to expand on that, if you're talking about the SAVE Act, they're coming back. Now I know Thune is not. If anyone is worthy of a black pill and a doomer response, it is Thune. It is Doom Thune. Yeah, I got it. He is definitely not the man for the moment. And he is definitely not learning how to wield power. See, for what Thune doesn't seem to understand is if he wields power in the Senate, he's going to keep it. We don't have to worry about the Democrats winning the Senate back. If you wield the power you actually have, you're going to keep it. If you fail to wield the power, you're going to lose it. Okay. So if you're talking about the SAVE Act, Yeah, I mean, you can pile on and you can go and you can do all that crap that gets us nowhere. You can't build a business with that. You can't design beautiful things. Can't raise a family on that. All you can do is, puke. That's all you can do with it. That said, if you're not, I mean, they're coming back. They're going to get it done. And just like Trump got funding restored to the TSA done last night. Now, if you're talking about, oh, he didn't get funding for ICE, they have funding till 2029. So if that's what you're talking about, dude. A little epistemological humility. That's all I'm asking. Hey, Steve, maybe I'm wrong, but it looks like Thune caved last night. Is that true? That's how you do it. Shannon, your analysis of your video yesterday, Russia just shocked the world, was so enlightening. When you explained it, I said to myself, oh, wow, thank you for your hard work. Well, thank you, Shannon. That's very, very sweet of you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, again, the 4D chess that's going on right now with Trump is pretty astonishing. So, when he's being lobbied by both Netanyahu and Mohammed bin Salman, look, we can take this regime out. He's not just thinking, yeah, they suck. They're mean. They chant death to America. Let's get rid of them. He's thinking, okay, we get rid of Iran. That means we permanently box out China, but then that gives us the perfect opportunity to court Russia and initiate what many are calling a reverse Kissinger, right? For Kissinger, Kissinger's geopolitics, his realist geopolitics, is you've got to keep Russia and China apart. If we have Russia and China united against U.S. interests, these two major, rising superpowers. Russia was certainly a superpower during the time as the Soviet Union, but then China they knew was growing. You get those two nuclear superpower, economic, energy, manufacturing, finance superpowers. We're in trouble. Both against the United States, we're in trouble. So you've got to separate them. You've got to keep them separated. And Kissinger opened up world markets to China with the Nixonian détente and was able to woo China away from Russia. Now Trump is trying to woo Russia away from China, having boxed China out, having shown Russia they no longer have an asset. They literally no longer have a single asset in the Middle East. It was Iran and it was Syria, bottom line, and they're both gone. Syria is now under a new fully Sunni leadership that's pro Saudi Arabian. We've acknowledged. We are now recognizing them as a legitimate government. Assad is gone, and now Khamenei is gone, and they've got no one. But they got the United States, and the United States would be happy to broker Russian influence in the region as long as it's within American interests as well. It aligns with American interests. And maybe we can give you that 20% of land in Ukraine as a bargaining chip so that you turn your back on China, you come with us, and then China is pretty much isolated from India, Turkey, Middle East, you name it. They'll have their trading partners with Australia, and then, they're small vassal-like trading partners, but it's 4D chess, 5D chess in the most amazing way imaginable. So thank you, Shannon. Mark Overman just found out that Iran is charging $2 million per ship to transit the Strait of Hormuz. They may be. I mean, again, a lot of people are saying, or some are saying that it's very hard to enforce. So we'll see. And they may be doing that for the time being. But the GCC, the Gulf states are coming in united and saying no more. You can't hold ships hostage. William, when is Don Lemon's trial? Okay, maybe that was the earlier one mentioned. I don't know. I haven't kept up with it. I don't pay a lot of attention to Don Lemon, but it will be fun to watch him finally on trial. And apparently, this goes back to the earlier Doomer comment. Every single person that invaded that church has been arrested and have been charged. Can the SAVE Act pass the House as a standalone bill without Democrat support? If so, can we get it through the Senate? Well, it already has. They've already passed the SAVE Act in the House. The House, Mike Johnson's been getting it done, man. I've been certainly a critic of Johnson, but he's been getting it done. It's Thune that needs to step up. So, bottom line, a SAVE Act is either going to have to overcome the 60 vote filibuster threshold. And one argument is if they attach it to FISA, FISA will give enough coverage for enough Democrats, just the 4, 5, or 6 they need to vote to end debate. They're not even having debate. That's the filibuster. To vote to bring it up to a simple majority vote. Or they just bypass the filibuster altogether by making it a reconciliation bill. But then what they have to do is they have to score it through the CBO to show how it affects budgetary issues. And they're thinking, well, you get rid of illegal migrants through the purging of voter rolls that the SAVE Act requires, that all states submit voters their voter rosters to a ICE-based voter database, and then we determine who's actually citizens and who's not. And then if you can clear those voter rolls, then you can remove those people from welfare recipients, from Social Security, from unemployment, which are only for citizens or people here legally. So they're trying to CBO that one way or the other. I think they're going to get it done. Adam, reminded about Moses and Pharaoh with the Iran stuff, with the hearts hardening. Yeah. And Trump is kind of like many ways Alexander the Great. He's taking over Persia. Pretty impressive stuff. The Medo-Persian Empire. Go, Dr. Steve. Thanks, Bob. I like the class. Very cool. Thank you. Thanks, Bob. Quay, thanks for the earlier response. Say no to doomers. Yes, say no to doomers. Just turn them off. They're just attention seeking, and they're just trying to make your life as miserable as theirs. And that's it, gang. All right. Well, I'll be your back porch professor throughout the week, so stay tuned to the channel. Any updates, especially what's going on in the Persian Gulf, I will be the first one to bring you breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. Love you guys. God bless.